Welcome back to another episode of TVGP's Game Club for this month and our 11th and final game of this year. We'll get to that here in a second. Playing Life is Strange Double Exposure. I'm your host, Boston, playing this on the PlayStation 5. Joined as always by Moonpeer.
Hi, Xbox Series X.
And Musum.
Hello, PS5.
Before we dive into the game itself, wanted to mention here real quick, we only play 11 games, quote-unquote, only 11 games every year. Gosh, we slack and don't do the full 12. But that means that this is the last full game we're going to play this year. Our next game is going to be Gris, Gris, which came out on everything. So if you have something, it will play it. At the time of recording, it is on both Game Pass and PS Plus. And also, it's been out for long enough and has been on enough sales. You might already own it, so go ahead and check that. We're going to play that for January's game. You might be saying, hey, haven't you forgotten about a month? I said, no, I haven't, because next month is our Game Club of the Year episode. So please tune in next month as we kind of look back and celebrate and talk for the worst ones. Maybe just talk about some of the games we played this year, and then we rank them because I have an insatiable need to make things fight in a list. So we're gonna.
Don't I know it?
Yes, if anybody does, Moon has been swept away by my need. So, Gris is our January game. Next episode for next month, we'll have the Game Club of the Year episode, and we'll play that, and we'll talk about that, and we'll rank. So, let's talk about Life is Strange Double Exposure here. Get all the non-spoilery stuff out of the way. First, was released October 29th, 2024, November 19th for the Switch. Published by Square Enix, developed by Deck 9. Came out on PS5, Series consoles, Switch, and PC. Scrolling. Metacritic 73, OpenCritic 72. I totally forgot to do peers for the release date. So if you look on Wikipedia for the October 2024 section, all of them, all the great
Call
ones.
Call of Duty. There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah, there's some big games in there. We're recording this pretty soon after this game came out, so we'll still ask the question we ask every month. Was this game top of the pile, middle of the pack, or overlooked?
I mean, by me, it was top of the pile. By the rest of the world, probably middle or overlooked.
I mean, I would go with middle, to be honest, because I am not listening to podcasts at the moment. The only one I even actually paid any attention to or listened to talked very, very much about this game, but that doesn't tell me anything. That is the target demographic for this game.
Right. I think I'm also somewhere between middle of the pack and top of the pile. I think if you're big Life is Strange fans like us, as soon as this was announced, it's like, yep, cool, don't show me anything else. I'm just going to buy it. Let's just go do it. I think if you haven't played a Life is Strange game before,
you were probably like, who's Max?
You're probably like, it's not even on the radar, I don't think. So it's probably... This is a kind of a wild swing one.
Just to reinforce how much we are the target demographic, who else has wishlisted the Don't Nod record version that's coming out next year?
One. I never remember the name of that game, but yes, also definitely that, yeah. Okay, we're going to get into the game here. Couple of notes here. First off, spoiler warning for literally every Life is Strange game. Not just one and this one, just all of them. We're going to talk about all of them. If you haven't played all of them, feel free to pause this, go spend like 40 hours, and just go play all of them. They're all...
1, 2, 3, 4.
There's like 4 or 5.
20 hours, dude.
Yeah, you're fine. Before the Storm is short, you're fine. So go check those out.
8 to 12 hours a piece, man.
Yeah. Well, Life is... Before the Storm is only like 3 hours or so. So that one's a quick one. So we are definitely, after this, we're definitely going to be spoiling all of them, especially because of the nature of this game. We're also probably going to be talking about, there's content warning for transphobia. There's a content warning for death of many varieties and sort of similar related topics. So these are all things that the game kind of addresses and handles in one way or another. And as part of this conversation will probably come up. So, end of the warnings, end of the spoiler warnings. Let's get into it.
Can I start? Can I start?
Please feel free.
So the reason I want to start is because I have a question for you
Okay.
guys. And it's something that I was thinking about a lot when I was playing this game. I don't think the first Life is Strange needs a sequel. I just don't. I didn't even think it needed a prequel. And you guys have said several times that game is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think the issue here is, and I don't care about remakes. Don't come at me with all that kind of stuff. So, for example, Ghostbusters versus Ghostbusters. I don't care that they made an all-women version of Ghostbusters because my Ghostbusters still exists.
Okay.
And I also happen to pretty much like and love the new version too. The thing I was bumping into when playing this game was making a headcanon timeline split from where Life is Strange 1 ended for me when I finished playing it and went this direction to the left. And when this game picks up the ending or the future of the characters and went this direction to the right, I inherently had that sequel thing of, okay, you've waited 10 plus years to make a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, like, period. In my head, I get to live in the fantasy of what ending did we all choose? I chose Chloe.
I chose that Chloe died.
Okay.
Yeah, I ran them like the first Life is Strange game. I loved to where I went and did everything in it. Like
What was your first?
when I had
ending?
options in the other games, usually I went with the screw Blackwell. I'm taking Chloe.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
There's no other ending to the first game for me other than Chloe dies. It's the saddest, gayest story you can possibly make, and at the end of that game, Chloe has to die to save the.
So this is what I'm talking about. That my ending was the opposite. The only ending to Life is Strange 1 for me is Chloe lives. Screw
That's
that town.
wild. Okay.
But because I'm playing a fictional character in a fictional world, it's like, yeah, I don't care about the good of the many. The good of the one, please.
We're going on
Thank
a
you
road
very
trip.
much.
Peace.
Specifically, the good of my one.
Yeah.
My one soulmate to go on this future adventure with.
Right.
Ignoring the fact that, yes, there would be consequences from that action, which I think this game actually portrays very well in the ending that I chose. That was my big struggle. It's like, no, my Life is Strange 1 ended where they both grew old together and lived a happy life and did whatever they wanted. The problem this game has is that's not the story anymore. That's my story for the ending of Life is Strange 1.
Right.
Now they are taking my story and making their own with it.
Yeah, because that's the inherent friction here with this game is how do you make a sequel? Life is Strange 2 is like arguably a sequel to the first one, and it sort of cements which ending is the canon of the first one.
So you can do both endings with
Does
Life
it?
is Strange too.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Because you visit what's his name in the trailer, and if you chose to save Chloe, he'll have a picture of Chloe and Max.
Yeah, that's true.
Talk about them going around the country.
But like that's
and you can pick what the town looks like when you go by it too.
right, and that's kind of the struggle here of double exposure is, my version of double exposure is much easier. Of like, yeah, I loved this lady, and then she died because of what I did. There's no, oh, we were together and then we split and we were never really meant to be together, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, there's that other, the Bay, not Bay path is a much murkier outcome than I think I was expecting. Because to get the platinum in this game, you have to play.
I hate that achievement. By the way, for the very first time in a Life is Strange game, you have to play both ways. It's like, no, that's not how these games work.
Yeah, I'm playing through a
second
second time right now to get the platinum, and I don't like it. Yeah, so I mean, I think an interesting thing is that the director over at Deck 9 of this game has the original director of the first one from Don't Nod has had some, I think, kind of surprising uh, statements he's put out online of like, you know, this certainly isn't the way that we would have done it if we would have made a direct sequel to the first one, but you know, it's a different team, it's a much different time, it's way after the first game, so you know, they can tell their own story and it doesn't change the first one, so that's cool by me. You know, I'm interested to see how this team is going to kind of take Max's story going forward.
Yeah, when they did it, I was disappointed, but I kind of, as much as I enjoyed them letting me destroy Blackwell, like in my heart, I'm like, I know this is never going to be the canon ending.
Right.
It's 100% the wrong choice, but it's 100% the wrong choice based on a sequel that was released 10 years later.
Yeah.
Like, again, my head canon, it was the right choice because screw that town, screw everybody. But at that time, and I think that's something that this game does particularly well, is I didn't think about Joyce.
Yeah.
Now, Joyce haunts me.
Yes. Yeah, Joyce. Joyce in the one where Chloe dies is haunting you in a fairly terrible way. The likeness between Joyce and Yasmin in this game is really, really powerful in a way that I think is really well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have I'm assuming Musum, you went with Destroying Arcadia Bay 2 for your official canon ending.
Well, yeah, I mean, you didn't get that option in this game, though, right? Like, it just always, like you said, it canon ending for double exposure is.
You pick at the start. Is Chloe alive or is she dead?
Yeah.
Like, it's the very first choice you make.
Yeah, because it's basically like Safi asks Max when you're in the Snapping Turtle at the very beginning, says like, hey, you know, you have this picture of this blue-haired girl in your wallet and you never want to talk about her. You got to talk about her now, man. Like, just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's talk about it. What happened? And you get the big, like, pause screen where you have the two decisions. One is she died. The other one is we're not together anymore.
Oh, no, that's not what it said. It said one is you lost a lover and one is you lost a friend. I thought I read online that you actually can't create a situation in this game where Chloe can die. Like, I was never.
How did you get that? Okay, so one of the cool things about double exposure is there are way more choices in this one than the other ones. So I wasn't presented with that option in my game because because of the choices I had made leading up to that big question. Mine was we broke up or she died.
Lived or she died.
Right.
Yeah, we broke up or she died is the two choices I got too.
That's fascinating.
Well, heck, maybe I'm imagining things, and I just chose that she died.
It's totally possible.
I had a serious problem. I'm going to be a bit negative on this game, honestly.
Okay.
I had a difficulty predicting what Max was going to say or what was going to happen on the options. It was very unclear to me what tone I was supposed to read the options in.
I struggle with that a lot, especially talking to Diamond. I had a lot of troubles of like, I'm just gonna
Diamond and Vin for me.
And Vin
was
like
a big
just
one for me too.
I'm gonna rib him a little bit, and then Max is like, blah. I was like, no, I didn't.
Yes.
No, we're trying to be fun here, man. Come on.
It could have done with a lot of the open brackets description close brackets.
Right.
So make fun of open brackets complementary close brackets. Like, ironically enough, this game has I was debating mentioning it when I talked about the whole sequel thing, especially with this type of game where you're making choices. That is a very Mass Effect problem that we all didn't realize was going to be a problem until Mass Effect 2 and 3 came out, where 2 was like incredible and then 3 was like closing the diamond, I believe the Giant Bomb crew called it. Like, that is the hard part, and this part jumped from the open diamond to the closed diamond almost immediately, and I feel like that was an issue it had. And funnily enough, an issue that you had with the first Mass Effect game was exactly this, where it would be a one-word answer, you hit it, and then it's an entire diatribe about how people are terrible and nightmarish and everything else.
Right,
It's
it
like,
just says
"No,
okay,
dude."
and you punch a dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So just for clarity's sake, I found an article that tells me the choices. It's evidently two stacked choices. The first choice is whether Max and Chloe were friends or sweethearts, and then the second choice is whether they died or not.
Okay.
And
That makes sense.
I think I did choose she died because my thought was there's no way. I don't know. I
There's no
just
way
did.
they could break up, right?
Yeah, like I don't know. I did what I did, despite what I did previously.
The thing that I've been revisiting the first Life is Strange in my mind a lot as I'm playing this game, sort of naturally.
Yeah.
And
It does it deliberately, and it does it in nasty ways too, which we'll talk
yeah,
about, I'm sure.
and I think
It is.
one of the things that is so strong about the ending of Life is Strange 1 that I think 2 and this game fail on is at the ending of Life is Strange 1, for myself, and I know for so many people that played the game, there's only one choice. It's a hard choice, and like you're
You're right. There is only
hesitating.
one choice. I think 100% of people will agree with you. There is only one choice.
Right.
The difference is what the choice is.
And I think that's really great because by the time you get to the end of the first game, you're just like, oh my god, of course I have to make this choice. Well, there's only one choice, but I still have to push the button to make this happen. Ooh. And like a lot of the other Life is Strange games, other than True Colors, sort of struggles with that. The inevitability of the last choice.
Yes.
Of it being like, well, of course there's only one choice. And I think this game struggles with that and sort of writing that choice at the end.
I would also argue that that's one of the reasons why the first Life is Strange is so strong. Because me and you picked different choices, Boston, but we both believe that our choice was the right choice to make.
Exactly.
So I think. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to completely divert kind of the choice conversation with something else. So to me, Life is Strange, the entire series, except for this game. I mean, I guess you could argue it for this game to a lesser degree, but I think this is its big failure point for me is most of the Life is Strange series is a big supernatural metaphor for some of the travesties of life and the horrible things that happen in the world to one degree or another.
Yeah.
And a lot of it explores like anxiety and self-doubt and things like that. And, you get a lot of that in the first game with Max losing her friend, and the time travel could be like what could have been, and if she could enact her will kind of that way. 2 is the horrible reality of getting your freaking immigrant Mexican father shot by a white cop and then going on the run so you don't get separated from your brother.
Being a person of color in America, yes.
Yeah. Like Before the Storm is another friend dying and like a lesbian romance,
It's also I think that one is potentially also the desire to find that connection and click with a bunch of people, like especially as I'm sure we all were at one point in our life, especially as the quote unquote outsider in the situations.
And
like
one of the big tragedies of Before the Storm is that the train is going to crash into the station and you can't do anything to stop it. I think it was only like 3 chapters or so, but just knowing where this is going to go at the halfway point of the first game, and just like, I know this isn't going to end in a happy way because one doesn't go anywhere happy. So
for me, the nature of the dual realities doesn't have that. Like, I don't, there was no, like, Safi's a great character and entertaining, but it did not have the same emotional weight as any of the other characters in any of the other games.
Yeah.
The villains in this one were, the teacher was horrible from the start. Like, I was trying to think if they had ever done that before.
Are we all on Screw Lucas?
Like, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I mean,
he's the worst.
How could anyone like Lucas? Like, the game doesn't even like Lucas.
No, nobody even likes Lucas, and they're like, oh, here he's reading from his book again. Here, all right, let's do this.
Yep.
But like serial killer guy from the first game, like if you aren't paying attention to his,
He's charming,
class
so
lecture,
he's so
yeah,
Right.
likable
he's
at the start.
charming. He's building you up.
He's
He's,
helping out Max. He loves her
and
art.
Hmm.
freaking
He's
beard
helping everybody.
bartender guy in True
Mhm.
Colors. Like, who did not love that guy before you
Yeah, yeah.
found out
Hmm.
what horrible stuff he did, And
Yeah,
I
I do
double
think you're
exposure
right.
lacks that weight for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Immediately, you're right. Immediately, I was suspicious of Safi. Like, immediately.
Yeah.
When there is that whole, they have the reveal to one another at the bar where you're talking about the Chloe situation. And it's like, yeah, I don't know anything about you, and you don't know anything about me. Like, we're friends, and we're, like, obviously, like tunnel snakes running around here with our leather jackets making fun
Right.
of everybody.
And like
Well, they
grad
actually
students
don't.
together.
Yeah, but they actually really don't know anything about each other, like
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Which you get even more information of when you go down the whole Maya Okada storyline and figure
Right.
out exactly how deep that rabbit hole goes. I will say, again, I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and I want you guys' feedback on this.
But it is a Life is Strange game, so we gotta make choices.
I think this is about a game without Max and a brand new antagonist.
So that's the big struggle in this game is, and I think my big struggle with Life is Strange going forward is, I love Max. I think she's an incredible character.
I do.
I think it is really interesting seeing her kind of being her own person at this point, or removed from Blackwell, removed from Arcadia Bay, removed from Chloe, and kind of
Yeah.
she went on this this worldwide photography journey after the events of the first game, and really found her art, found herself, lived all these interesting experiences that I'm really glad we don't get to play. And we're
Yes.
kind of at the back end of that, where she is finding herself
She's
settling
settling
in.
down for the first
Yeah.
time.
And I think that's really interesting. And
And I will say they do an incredible job of writing Max as the same Max from the first game.
yes,
And I figured this out at the very first chapter when
Reggie.
something Reggie smashes the glass, so you
Mhm.
clean it up for Amanda, or you can.
Yeah.
I did, and as I'm scooping it all up in Max's head, she literally says, and I wrote it down because it felt like a Max line. She says, "Come here, my glass nemesis," as she's scooping up all the glass into the
Yeah,
book.
she's
That
still that character.
feels like Max.
Yeah,
Like,
still
and
has
she
the
has
dad
lines like that
jokes.
throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's I do want to mention something interesting though. This game, I think, struggles a lot to humanize Max as her own person, as someone who isn't trying to become friends with Moses, someone who isn't struggling to become friends with Safi, and is struggling to sort of
She's
reject the
just
advances
trauma.
of Vin.
That's all it is.
Right. Ironically enough, the exclusive cat content goes a long way to helping humanize Max a lot.
Yeah.
Because
Of course.
in like chapter 2 or 3, I think it was, when Safi breaks into your house as other Max, you find the cat in the back of your house and bring it in. You get this like very stilted choice of like, wow, it's a cat. It's a, and then you get like 4 breed choices, and they're like, wow, so nice to meet you. Your name must be, and then you get like 4 name choices. But like having Max taking care of something in the same way that she took care of the plant in the first game and takes care of the plants in like only 2 situations here in this game, goes so far into kind of giving Max that like that more of the inner dialogue and more of the character that I think she struggles with a little bit in this game. I really wish it was in the base game, and I really wish it wasn't $10 extra, because it's pretty cool and it has kind of a nice ending, which is nice.
Yeah.
But like the game really struggles with making, as much as it tries to, making Max her own person rather than the detective solving another time mystery.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind Max so much. Like, to me, like, the issue is that this game feels like it exists to make the Avengers Life is Strange game next.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like
Well,
they
Max
started out
Caulfield
with
will return. I never
Yeah.
would have guessed.
Yeah.
yeah,
That
like
was
that didn't sit well in my mouth. But like
no, ditto.
I I feel like it is a shallower experience because they said we want to get to the end and we want to bring all our powered characters into the next game to do something, and they set up this weird, or I don't know, the way I played it is it set up a weird Magneto
That's literally what I was
is
just gonna say.
Sophie
Xavier.
and
It's it. Literally. So the choice you make with Safi at the end, where she's like, "Are you going to support me when I come
Will you
back from
join
my
me,
own
brother?"
personal journey?"
yeah.
I literally, in my notes, I've got this has got real big Xavier
Mhm.
Magneto like energy going on right here.
What we could be together, Charles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, did you refuse or agree to
I
support?
refused. Get out. Go to hell, Safi.
I
Newsom?
refuse.
I agree to support because that's what Charles would do.
You're the savior of a group. I appreciate it. But like I I struggled so much with this game. Number one, I by the time that chapter 2 rolls around, and this game kind of struggles with this the entire game, I feel like I'm talking to the same 4 or 5 people for the entire game. And that made sense in some of the other games. Life is Strange 2, it's you and your brother, and you're running into a bunch of people, but it's kind of the same core people.
You're speaking to like 4, like maybe 6 people, but it's 6 different people each chapter because you're in a different location. The school in one makes sense because you're in the school.
Yeah,
like,
you go to school every day and you live there.
True Colors, it feels like you're talking to the entire town.
Exactly. And this game is always like, I guess I better go talk to Gwen again. It's like, do I really
Diamond,
need
Moses,
to?
Gwen, Lucas, they're the 5 essentially.
And like one of the more interesting characters, the guy that knows too much, which is the detective who is kind of on your side but kind of not.
Time zapped out
time
of the
slurped
existence
and destroyed. Like,
so
like
when I posted in our Discord about being a genius in the Game Club chat, it was specifically that moment that I was referencing being a genius, because I was like, okay, something just happened to him. I got a sneaking suspicion he might have been erased from history.
Yeah.
And then Moses sends you a text about him, how like the PD doesn't have any record of him. And I immediately scrolled to the conversation with Safi's mom. Yasmin, thank you. With her, because I just had a conversation with her about that detective.
Mm-hmm.
And I scrolled to the phone text conversation with her, and that didn't exist anymore.
Yep,
and like,
deleted.
He's gone from the timeline.
Uh-huh.
Man.
Yeah.
I get that they wanted to do that, but it was really kind of the antagonist they needed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
He's such an interesting antagonist because he even sees the picture, the picture they needed to do a second pass on because it looks really goofy. The one where Max is aiming the gun straight at the camera.
Yeah.
And it looks wrong. You needed to do another pass on that, to be honest. But like he sees the picture and he's basically like, all right, I got you. All right, see you later. And like, you're pooping bricks at that point because it's like this dude either knows too much about the timeline or he has powers or something. Like something is afoot, and then bloop, he's gone.
He's gone. Yeah. So, can I just explain my thesis of why I think this shouldn't be Max? Why I think this should be a different main character? For the first, I will say, 3 chapters of this game, maybe 3.5, until the Safi reveal, which is, I think, like end of chapter 3, maybe start of 4.
It's the end of 3, yeah.
This game feels like it is treading the exact same steps as 1.
Yeah.
Same story beats, same problems. I literally have a note that says, "Is Maya Okada the Rachel Amber of this story?"
Right.
Because it's treading the same steps, and it's not. I don't feel like this game is building on its own emotional stakes, which is
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love True Colors so much, is because that's a fresh start and they make you care about everybody, and by the end you're a blubbering wreck no matter which option
God, that
you
game is
choose,
so good.
essentially.
Oh man.
This game feels like it is preying on the emotional stakes of one.
Yes.
It's never talking about its own stakes. Like, Safi dies, okay. I really didn't care that much about Safi by the time she was shot in the end of the first chapter.
It was bad. Like that's certainly not what I was expecting. But by the time she dies at the end of the first chapter, I'm like, okay, like that really sucks. That's a great way to end that chapter. But where's this going?
But like, that's what bothered me the most about this whole thing, was like, it felt predictable because it was leaning so much on the storytelling from one.
Right.
I even said at the end of chapter one, like, I'm sitting here and I'm playing it and I'm talking with the person I'm playing next to, who I couldn't play the game without them watching, essentially. Right. And I said at the end of chapter one, the only reason this happens, the only reason Max is here doing this, or, you know, it was the end of chapter 2, I should say, when the photo reveal happens.
Yeah.
I said, the only way that happens is if Max comes back in time, uses this photo to do so, puts a bullet in Safi, because the storm is back and she knows what's going to happen if this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then chapter 4 starts, or chapter 5 starts, and there's the storm, and I'm like, again, it's one. You're telling the story of one, and with a slightly older Max.
But I'm agreeing with you. One of my frustrations here, though, is there's such a... I agree with you. The first 3 chapters of this game is really great. At the beginning of chapter 4, where they're sitting in her house and talking and like passing the bottle cap back and forth, that's one of my favorite scenes in this game.
Yeah, I think right to that point, this game is a standout.
And then
even admitting the fact that it is taking its emotional devastation from previous game that we've played that arguably did it better. Because I see the photo of Joyce on the wall and it upsets me.
Yeah.
I hear Max talk about Chloe and what happened, and it upsets me.
Yeah.
I look at the timeline on my social media thing and seeing Chloe having the time of her life with Victoria Chase.
Oh, ew.
And it upsets me.
Chloe, come on, man.
Don't like that.
Have some standards, Chloe.
Yeah.
But like,
don't like that at all.
Chloe and Victoria are on my social media feeds. And it's just like, what?
In mine, where Chloe dies, Victoria posts, I think, once, and Max is very civil, but very much like, we don't need to talk to each other ever again. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think one of my bigger problems, though, is in the other Life is Strange games, especially True Colors, because True Colors is probably my favorite one at this point. It's like True Colors in one. Both of those games have such a solid and straight ramp through each chapter. Because of their nature, each chapter always ends with a cliffhanger and that has a cool song, and you get all your
I think this game does the cliffhangers better than any.
But my problem is
best cliffhangers. They never pay off.
My problem is the switch between chapter 4 and chapter 5. It ends in 4, and at 5, Safi's basically like pushing the gun into her chest and saying like, "Max, you need to shoot me now." And it's like, did I miss something here? Like there wasn't enough kind of connective tissue between some of these chapters to really make the payoff from the cliffhanger land in the next chapter.
Yeah, I do think they have the best cliffhangers, though.
Yeah.
So I think they could have made a much better game with Max, but I think it's to your point, Moon. I kind of think it's the Boba Fett problem. I think you have a bunch of writers who are afraid to expand on the character and their setting in a meaningful way, and you wind up with not enough there to make something good. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, she's back at a school dealing with a killer.
Honestly, I kept getting confused as to who was a student and who was not. Like that was
yeah, there was a little bit like who's the grad students and who's her friends, and is she like the line was a little bit blurry there.
Yeah. And like for me, this was kind of never a standout Life is Strange game. Like the best moments, like True Colors, is amazing because it goes between devastation and childlike wonder,
Yeah.
like seamlessly and beautifully. And this one is missing a lot of the childlike wonder, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
And
Um,
I was really, I had pretty high hopes for this going in because I when I started this game, I forgot which button it was to run. So I pulled the
Mhm.
powers button by accident, L2,
And
and
she says, "Nope, that hasn't worked in
yeah,
years."
she goes, "Oh, you haven't even tried to use this
That's a great line.
years." And rewind, oh, how much trouble rewind caught me. And I was like, "That's so good. Like, I really like that you have
Mhm.
something here." But then the game just kind of gives her time powers that I think inherently are interesting, but it feels like there's less consequence to her using them because you're just jumping between a live world and dead world all the time to be like, I'm going to pick up a key
Yeah.
here, bring it back to dead world, unlock this thing, hopping back to this. Like,
What
that,
happens when those keys touch? Do they vanish and take the briefcase with them? Like,
right.
who knows?
But like, I feel like when you time traveled in the first one, and I'm sure there's rose-colored glasses for the first one here, so like, I
There
recognize that.
isn't. There isn't.
There's like, it
It's
felt like you were making a decision
uh-huh.
to try and dig this hole deeper by using your powers.
Like, I could give you the best example of the best, like, in my personal opinion, it is the best chapter in Life is Strange 1. I'm pretty sure it's chapter 3.
Mm-hmm.
But when she uses her powers to go back in time and stop her dad from being hit by the car
Oh
and the
god, that chapter.
consequences of that action, which everybody forgets that that chapter is in that game.
Oh, it's the
It's
heaviest
so
chapter.
hard.
Yeah. Oh my god. And like it I liked this game a lot. And I think the first
For 3.5 chapters, like,
the first two
friend
thirds
of
of it.
friend of the show Rob asked me last night, like, we played some Space Marine. He was like, "So did you finish the Game Club game yet?" And I was like, "Yes, I finished it like Thursday night." And he was like,
Mhm.
"What did you think?" And I told him flat out, it has some of the best chapters, 1, 2, 3. Again,
Yep.
paying off on Life is Strange 1, not on its own merits. It has an incredible chapter 1, 2, 3, and then like about a quarter, maybe half of the way through 4, it drops off a cliff.
Yeah. And
I
uh,
just
go ahead.
I don't hate the game,
Right.
but it is like to be clear, like if I were to rank all these, I would have a tough time choosing between this and 2 at the bottom of the list.
Mhm.
And this would probably win out just because 2 is so emotionally devastating to
Yeah.
play with little to no joy in
And
it
I
that
would
I would
argue that needs to be higher because it affects you more.
it does.
Sure.
Like in terms of like an emotional punch, 2 is up there, but
Yeah.
like and this game is not bad enough to make me fall off the series. I am going to play their Life is Strange, the Avengers game.
Yes. Age of
There's,
Ultron Max Edition.
yes,
And
there's no doubt there.
what I was going to say though is even as much as I'm frustrated about the story of this, I think this is I was so impressed with the technical merits
Oh, the
of
facial
True
capture.
Colors,
Oof.
and I didn't
Oof.
think it could get better until I played this. And the even in the beginning when you and Safi are in the
In the
Galaxy
bar.
bowling alley, um,
Oh, yes.
the you can immediately tell that Safi likes Max and they're friendly, and she's like giving Max a little bit of the business, like she's being a little bit sassy, and
Hmm.
the
You can see it in the face.
yeah, and you can see it in like the facial features and the
The,
furrowing
the
over
little
brow
smiles.
and like all of that stuff. And the thing that I kept remembering was how far we've come from Life is Strange 1 that didn't have lip syncing when it originally came
Oh
out.
yeah.
And it like looked like a watercolor painting because that's kind of what they could do, to this game that is so I ran into so many graphical bugs, but when those bugs weren't hitting the game, it looks so great. The lighting is incredible. The voice, the vocal performances are incredible. The soundtrack is great. That's all of these games have had incredible
Yeah.
soundtracks. But like from a technical standpoint, it's so impressive, and I really didn't think we could take that next step. I thought True Colors was going to be like the top of the mountain, and for them just to
Yeah.
be like, nope, there's more mountain up there. It's like, yeah, that's you guys have done something really, really, really incredible that takes the storytelling and takes the voice acting and kind of exponentially delivers on that through all that facial animation.
I mean, also at the same time, it kept its style. It looks like a
Yes.
Life is Strange
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
It feels like a Life is Strange game.
And one of the things I love the most about Life is Strange games when they nail it is when you go look at like a book or specifically a photo or a poster or something, it needs to have that watercolor kind of like quickly done art
The
style.
scribbly lines.
Yeah, and a bunch of stuff in this, especially photos, still have that. And to me, that's kind of like the beating heart of Life is Strange is this kind of like sketchy watercolor, like hashy sort of art style for stuff you're inspecting. And I'm so happy that that stuff is still here in this game.
Yeah.
So, real quick, back to one of your earlier points, Boston, where you're talking about consequences.
Yeah.
All the consequences for anything you do happens after this game. Like,
Yeah.
that was, I think that was, I don't know. Maybe they have this amazing sequel that's going to retroactively make this game amazing. Like that is on the table, you know. But like right now, with left up to the user, like it's not going to have the Mass Effect 3 effect on me, where I'm constantly debating with strangers online how everyone would have died if you chose the destroy ending. But
like you can see, and I hope they kind of buck these expectations, but you can see so clearly that like in the next game or the game after that they, like we've been saying, they're building this Avengers thing. It's gonna be Safi and Diamond, the bad guys, quote unquote, and me and Alex from True Colors. We're the good guys.
Oh no. Even better than that. You've got the brothers from 2 on different sides. You've got the bad
right,
ending.
and like,
here's the deal. The brother, the younger brother on 2,
with
only
the powers.
Which side he joins depends on your
he goes
decisions from
Safi.
2.
Right. But like, I don't really want that to happen. Like, the thing that was so exciting to me about Life is Strange, especially after 2 and doubly so after True Colors, was I liked the idea of them making an anthology series. It was this, you have the same emotional powers throughout each game, and it was a different location with a different person with their own struggles. But I mean, True Colors was also the very, very much like the X-Men thing. We are the other people. We are outsiders. We are different. That sort of thing. But it really worked in so many of these things because it wasn't. It was the winks and nods and Easter eggs of like, boy, certainly look at what Arcadia Bay looks like. Does anyone remember? And then it turns over like, it got destroyed. It's like, yes, this giant crater. But like,
I mean, they also kind of, I think they started this with the mini one that they put out, the
Captain Spirit.
Yes, Captain Spirit, where the brother from 2 shows up at the end of that one.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I think that was the tease of this. I'm very
was
curious.
Very confusing, honestly, because I had not watched the trailers for 2.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm very curious if this is. It's not a podcast unless we mention it. If this is the late stage capitalism thing of Square basically saying, if you want Life is Strange, you make this a franchise.
Yeah, exactly. Like Max needs
every
to be
2 years.
Yeah.
This is the character everyone resonated with. This is the character everybody loved. So you're going to use this as your foundation.
Yeah.
Of your franchise in the future. That's the only thing I can think of is.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to make these games? Fine, you can make them. This is who you're going to use. This is what you're going to do. Like, I expect another Life is Strange within 2 years.
Yeah.
I just don't see like Square of all companies forcing them to use the same protagonist in a game that they already have.
I mean,
3 or 4 releases on that all use different antagonists.
Right.
And then you look at like Final Fantasy, which none of those games, like they're all different worlds entirely. You know,
Yeah,
like
but that's also Final Fantasy 27 we're up to now, so that's
But-
slightly different.
That's
but
fair.
also I
um,
could see Square saying, if you want to keep this, you got to release one a year, one every 2 years.
Yeah.
and
one
putting
every 18
some
months
restriction on
kind of
it.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I'll be honest that if I'm a money man working for the studio that made this game, and I'm looking at it thinking, okay, we've got to build something that connects. We need to put one out every 18 months without fail. We need something that's going to connect them all. No offense to their previous work, I think True Colors is the masterpiece of this franchise.
Yeah,
I genuinely
agreed.
do.
Yeah.
It is my number one with a bullet easily.
Yep.
That didn't sell like one did. Two didn't sell
Yeah.
like one did. Before the Storm did not sell like one did. And
Yeah.
if you bring something through if you want something to quote unquote sell, it's Max. It's the Life is Strange 1 connection.
Yeah.
I guess that is an argument for that, and I'm going to forever be sore that they have never released a really cool physical collector's edition for True Colors, because I have the ones for all the others, and it drives me crazy. But
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about.
Yeah.
As a quick aside, since we haven't really talked about it, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Let's do a quick character rundown and give a thumbs up, thumbs down. Can we
sure.
all start with the best character in this game, except for Max, which is Moses?
Oh,
Can we all
Moses
agree on
is the
this?
best.
Moses is the best.
Moses
There's
number
only one name that better leave your lips.
That's right. It better be Moses, baby. Yeah, Moses is so good. He's
in
great.
both timelines.
Yeah.
And not gonna lie, it broke my heart when I think it's the start of end of chapter 4 when you're doing the Lucas roast, and you can get the gingerbread house chimney for him from the old other universe.
yeah.
That made me
Literally, I was so upset.
I was full
Yeah.
on sobbing at that when she drew the heart and the initials in there, and when he sees it,
Yeah.
that to me is like the ultimate of the voice acting and the facial animation, everything coming
Yeah.
together. That just broke my heart, man. That was
That
rough.
that is one of the most beautiful moments of that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's
And
so
honestly,
good.
like the Moses Safi relationship's the best one in the game, like
Yeah.
hands down.
Like the
Mhm.
opposites attract best friends, though they shouldn't be, sort of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she even says when you ask her about who she's transformed into and doing the shapeshifting trick with, she's like, never Moses, never Moses.
really
Not once,
liked that.
ever Moses.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I also really like that Max, you get the opportunity that I took, where Max was like, "Hey, okay, I realize now that you shapeshifted into Amanda. That's why you were being so weird.
Don't ever do
don't
that
do
again."
that again." Like I
Yeah.
love her
Yeah.
putting her foot down for once and being
Mhm.
like, "I'm not mincing words. Don't do that again." That was
Yeah.
great.
Speaking, let's talk about her next. Like Amanda.
Amanda's great. She's super cool.
I romanced Amanda. I'm assuming you did too,
Yeah,
Boston
yeah.
Newsome.
I wound up. I don't know how I wound up at this place, but I had
You
one
did
timeline
both.
where I
Tell me
didn't,
you didn't
and
do
one
both.
timeline where I did.
Oh,
And
okay.
she felt very mixed about it at the end when she became one person. She's like,
Yeah.
"You hooked up with me even after I rejected you. That's kind of messed up."
She did the same
I
thing
did
to
the
me.
exact same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Amanda's great. I love the attitude. I love her performances are fantastic, especially when all of the intimate moments between her and Max, where she's like, "Look, I'm trying to take things slow because I have a habit of going for the crazies,"
Right.
Yeah.
and it's just like, okay, yeah. Have you seen the photo of the blue-haired girl in my wallet that I still carry around decades later?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you're not the only one who goes for the crazies. Apparently, Amanda
Honestly,
is
I
fantastic.
thought Max was going to go back in time and bring Chloe back from the dead. Like,
Yeah.
like at some point in this
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
like it really felt like they were gonna.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. You want to go through the other characters?
Yeah, sure. Let's do the other romance option, aka the nightmarest of nightmares people, Vin.
Oh
Who-
gosh.
Vin, man.
His backstory is tragic, but you don't get that when you meet him. Instead,
No.
you get the smarmy secret organization head who's
Skull
just
thrower.
he's just talking his way into all of these situations that he wants to be in and getting his way.
In our show
He is
notes here,
slimy.
I say head of Abraxas, assistant to Yasmin, skull thrower, scumbag with a heart of gold, question mark? Like, he's at his core, he's a good dude, or at least he's trying to, and he is trying to make the best of a bad life, but he keeps getting pulled into stuff, especially for Yasmin, that he just
He
shouldn't.
shouldn't.
And like,
Mhm.
he's just like, hey man, I needed health insurance. It's like, ugh, yeah, but
But
Yeah.
what you did sucks.
I I really like Vin, but to me, he's that promiscuous friend that you should never
Yeah.
hook up with or date.
I really
Um,
liked his voice actor, though. I think his voice actor,
really good job on that.
really
Yeah.
nails that, like, treading the line between, like, oh, you make my skin crawl versus, okay,
Yeah.
you're not that bad. Oh, but okay, now you're bad again. Oh, boy.
yeah,
The slime is thick when he
Yes.
when he starts talking in his schmoozy way, in his
Mhm.
I'm a working class boy trying to fit into this upper class kind of
Right.
place. When he's talking like that,
You
the
wouldn't
slime
hit
is
a guy with
so
glasses.
thick. Mm, mm,
Yeah.
No more secrets for free is a great line that he
Yes.
delivers.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't like Vin.
Nope.
I don't. I don't. Diamond.
Thumbs down.
Yeah.
And I think part of my problem with her is she doesn't get enough time for her character to get fleshed out. This isn't a reaction to the ending.
No.
Because
She's a radicalist from the second you meet her. She's trying to
Right.
break everything down. And spoiler alert, sometimes things need to be broken down.
Sure.
Like, I agree with certain aspects of it, but she's extreme in everything she does. It has to be
Yeah.
this, it has to be that. Doesn't help that she's got the secret backstory of falling for Moses, who's in a relationship with his boyfriend. Like, it's just that, again, exact same thing of Vin. She starts off as this firebrand go-getter, and it's just like, you're too loud for me, you're too much
Yeah,
for
she
me
she doesn't get enough
on a personal
time to
level.
like have enough depth for her character that I think her character really needs. And then by the time you get to the post-credit scene where she has the nosebleed, I'm like, come on, man, Diamond. Like what there should have been at least one or two little things where you're like squinty-eyed looking at Diamond of like, okay, what do you got going
So
on?
I think the time to do that is when you're having the debrief after the storm.
Yes, like the very
I think
last scene.
Yes, I think that's the time where she potentially might give some of that stuff away, but there's no hints to it beforehand.
Yeah, exactly.
so I liked Diamond, I think, because I disliked Vin so much at the start.
Oh, sure.
And I don't know that I have a particularly logical reason for why I enjoy Diamond, but I enjoy Diamond.
Yeah.
No,
It would have
that's
been.
fine.
There's a lot of things I think they could have done build-up wise, better in this
Mhm.
game, and I think that ending is, eh.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
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 Anyway.
I like Reggie a lot
Thumbs down.
because I see a lot of myself in Reggie.
I think
I like you,
um,
Moon. I don't like Reggie.
I want to like Reggie because I think he's a really interesting character. I like his thing is he's the eternally stressed student, and he is the most anxious person. But I think Reggie also suffers from the same problem with Diamond, which is Reggie's thing is he's dropping glasses at the bar all the time. He is super stressed. He likes Max's class, and he's like her best student, but he doesn't believe it. But he needed like a little bit more for him to have the depth he needed. It's the same thing as Diamond, and I thought he was really interesting, especially after he sees himself at the Overlook and freaks out about it, understandably.
Yeah.
I just needed like a little bit more to really flesh that character out.
Yeah. I think the thing I liked about him, and I don't know if you guys got this ending too, the thing I liked about him was him ending up with Vin. I think
got
they
that,
are
Yeah.
they are a very good combination
Oh.
for each other. Where go ahead.
So Moon, this reminded me of the dream sequence where you can like push the two of them together in the dream nebula bowling alley. When you're going through the infinitely repeating motel rooms, Moon, did you notice who wrote all of those books?
No, I read all of the books, but I didn't notice who wrote them.
The names
Was it
of
Reggie?
no, the names of all of those books are 2% off names of everybody from Waypoint. So it's like
I did see a Pete Klepek, and I was like,
yeah,
that's
it's like
Patrick Klepek's name, kind of.
Dr. Ashton Walker. It's like
Oh,
it's got Danielle.
that's
It's
great.
got all of that stuff.
It's funny. I clicked on the Patrick Klepek one. I was like, oh, that's kind of like Patrick Klepek, but it's not Patrick Klepek.
Each one of them
I was
has like one or two people that's a Waypoint person. I was like, they got
okay,
them all in here. That's great.
because it's like Peter Klepak or something like that. I think
Something
it is.
like that.
It is his, and I was like, that's a bit like Patrick Klepek.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'll like the fact that there's a name very close to his in this game, which he will play.
It's got pretty much all of them, I think, except for Ren. So it's pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Newsom, did you say how you felt about Reggie?
I didn't care for him. I don't know that I have much of a logical reason, because again, like none of the side characters are particularly fleshed out in a meaningful way. Well, I'm happy he got together with Vin. I think Vin is always going to be toxic in a relationship till he works on himself more. So in another way, I'm unhappy that they got together.
Poor Reggie.
True.
I did enjoy Reggie freaking out over grades, but overall, I just seemed like kind of a waste of a character, honestly.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Gwen Hunter, the other teacher.
The other lit teacher.
The red flag, not the red flag teacher, the false flag teacher, where the game tries to point all the blame towards Gwen, and it's like, oh, no. You find out.
I think this is one of the more interesting revelations when you put together that, Safi is a shapeshifter, and you see that footage from the flash drive with her looking directly at the camera. And like when you start watching that footage, you're like, why would she even do this while dealing drugs to students? Like, why would? And as soon as you put together,
make the connection.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I don't know yet why she has it out for all of these people, like Lucas and Gwen and Yasmin and all these other people. But now I know how she did it. I
really like Gwen a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Gwen is argumentative and temperamental to the extreme.
Yeah.
One might argue justified, considering I'm sure that the history of the fights that are needed to get to where they are is insanely difficult.
Yeah.
But I think Gwen is a fantastic character all around. And again, a voice acting performance, like motion capture performance for Gwen is absolutely spot on. And I like the fact that Gwen never holds back in telling people how she feels. Like, Loretta snitched me out to Gwen of eavesdropping on that first conversation.
Immediately.
And then the second you walk into Gwen's office, Gwen's like, I'm sorry, there's no conversations for you to conveniently overhear this time. And I'm like, Gwen, damn.
Give me a second here. I do want to mention something technically, though, that I noticed with both Max and Gwen, that they've sort of upgraded their hair tech. So if you look especially on Max, and Gwen has it a little bit too, there's like strands of hair that are free and that animate separately from the main collection of their hair. You see it a lot when Max is wearing her beanie, but you see it a little bit on Gwen too, that makes it feel less of like a Lego hairstyle and more of something that's kind of a little bit more true and like a little bit more free moving. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I like Gwen.
Yeah, I'm in the middle, but like her performance is just outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, the game really wants you to like Gwen, which makes me want to dislike Gwen a little bit.
Right.
But it also wants you to blame Gwen for everything at the same time.
Yeah,
It's like,
I guess in all fairness, it's that Max adores Gwen.
Yeah.
And I read that as a lot of the game telling me that, but like the reality is just Max really looks up to Gwen.
And the first line of her book is killer too. That's so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. We might as well just skip over Lucas and say screw Lucas. Like
Lucas
in every
is the worst.
timeline, like the second Safi is killed and he is there at the statue giving a reading from his book.
Yeah, reading.
I was just like,
You're
It's saying,
scumbag.
"Oh, this is a piece from my book, which is available at all media
Man,
He's
booksellers."
the worst. And also a
I,
pile right here. How strange.
yeah.
Yeah, he sucks.
I hate Lucas so much.
They really do try to give him a backstory where
They try and pull your
they
heartstrings.
really do, and like they really try to get there. He's just too terrible for you to get there.
So the thing I liked about Lucas's story is the thing I liked about his character. Screw him, everything else. But I like the fact that in the world where Safi is alive, he is a failure essentially.
Yeah.
His book is doing okay, but he's not doing book tours. His marriage is breaking up. He's having all these kinds of issues. Whereas in the world where Safi is dead, he's super successful. His family's together.
He's got a movie coming.
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
I like that opposite side of his like arc.
Yeah.
But still, I hate that guy.
He's the worst.
Everything he stands for needs to just go away.
Yep.
So oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to change characters because you skipped Loretta.
I was going to say,
Okay.
like Loretta is a character who I think is not in this enough.
Yeah, I have here in my show notes True Crime Podcast Sneaky Snoop, which is like
She's not in. Like the most interesting thing that happened with Loretta for me was when I was in the Alive world and I asked her how Reggie was doing, and she was like, "Who's Reggie?"
Oh, yeah. I messed that
wow.
one up, too.
So
And I was like, "Oops, wrong timeline."
with the exclusive cat content, you actually get a really sweet ending for her show because in chapter 4, where you're doing the chimney for the gingerbread house, you scan the QR code on one of her flyers and you listen to an episode and she says, "Hey, one of my friends lost her cat. Its name is this. It looks like this. If you ran into it, you might... Can you see if you can tell me who the cat is or where the cat went?" Find out that that's the cat that Max has adopted. And Loretta connects you with the cat's owner. And at the very, very, very end of the game, you have a kind of a sweet little conversation with Loretta of, here's the cat. You get a chance to say goodbye to the cat, which is really sweet. And then you kind of mend fences with Loretta over this cat of like, look, we haven't seen eye to eye really that much, but I'm very happy to hear that you're going to stop doing your podcast and you're going to do stuff that's a little bit more cool and less harassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish there was more with her in there. And again, 2 different timeline versions of her would be great. Where one where she's just like, "No, I will find the answers," and the other one where she's more chilled out, more relaxed, more research based kind of thing.
Right.
I think she would have been a great foil had they kind of developed her a bit more.
Yeah.
And I know they were judging by the decisions. It seemed like there was a chapter or 2 where I missed an interaction or 2, but
It did.
Yes, the bowling alley.
yeah.
Yeah. The villain of the piece, Yasmin. We'll get to Safi, but Yasmin is the villain of this story, in my opinion.
I like Yasmin a lot because she isn't...
I like her performance.
Her performance is really great. Her voice actor is really great. I like that she is principled, certainly in the wrong stuff, but her character, even to the end, even when in my game I totally accidentally shoot her,
In the shoulder?
In the shoulder, yeah.
Okay, same as me.
She's still sticking to... Ironically, she's sticking to her guns. But like I really respect that she thinks she's doing the right thing. She definitely is not. She's the one that pushed Safi into awakening her shapeshifter powers.
She's also there. I don't know if you got this, but there's also a line where Safi says, "Yeah, she told me my dad didn't want to speak to me anymore, and he did."
Yeah,
it was her point
that was
he
the
didn't.
Worst. She covered up Okada's death. Like,
as someone who went through that exact same thing right here,
yeah,
I'm like, You're the problem.
Yeah, I like Yasmin as a character. I think she's super. I think she's one of the better written characters in this game,
100%.
and I think the flip between both worlds is the most stark of her, like, lost at sea in Dead World, and then Alive World, she's just hunting down Gwen with no bad feelings about it. So she's the worst, but I like her character a lot.
I did not understand her motivations for denying the book, like Safi's book. Like that was never explained to me in a fashion that made sense. Like to that end, and maybe that's because I'm not a parent, or maybe haven't been in that situation, but
honestly,
I needed that expanded more.
It's kind of a throwaway line. Like Safi says it in basically, she got a little too real, where basically anybody who knew anything about the situation would be able to decode what her poems were about, because they were all about Maya.
Yeah.
And on Yasmin's part, what that is exposing the fact that not only did you allow a teacher to plagiarize a student and publish the book, that student then went into a depression and killed themselves.
Right.
Oh,
you basically covered it all up and then gave him a promotion.
And blamed Vin, like let Vin take the blame for it.
Had Vin do
the poems would have like connected all of the dots between all of these things in a way that I think people would have noticed immediately and like, oh, okay, sure, that all happened.
And that's like a business decision.
Right.
But at the end, Yasmin makes it very clear that she felt she was doing everything for Safi. Right. And there's no way I could make sense or reconcile that. Like, I don't see how I don't even see how Yasmin could have come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I think she's lying to herself. I think she's doing things for herself and the school.
Yeah. And I think I don't think it's supposed to make sense. I think it's one of those things that parents that are overly protective of their kids say of like, well, I was doing it for you. I was trying to protect you. And it's like, you were, it was the opposite of literally all of those things. Like you made I turned into a shapeshifter. Like,
I now have shingles. Good? I have shingles because you didn't get me the measles vaccination.
Right. Like it's all that kind of like, she's selling herself a story that isn't true at all.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Vince Alderman is the detective, whatever we talked about him.
He's the cop in the case, and now he doesn't exist.
I mean, it's kind of vanished. I feel like that's all the characters like we talked about.
We've only got one left.
Do we?
That's
what do we got? Oh, Safi.
Yeah.
The character the entire game's about.
Yeah. I am torn on Safi because, in all honesty, she's a less slimy version of Vin to me. Like, at the end of the game, she's a less slimy version of Vin, where it feels like the only honest-to-goodness, pure relationship that she has where she's not using people is the relationship she has with Moses.
Yes.
Even, like, she's friends with Chloe and they get up to antics, but they don't know anything about each other. They have the big powers reveal where they talk about stuff, which I will give credit where it's due.
Soft for academia is a great line. Also,
my personal favorite
is
Safi's line when they're talking about what they each can do, and Safi says, "Wow, you really white privileged your way into all of the cool powers." It's one of the best lines.
The line that I like more is the one that opens, I think it's chapter 4, which is, "Are you like that girl from Frozen?" When she fixes the lake, and she's just like, well, of course you have ice powers. How else can I explain it? That was really good.
Like, she's written fantastically. She's performed exceptionally.
Yep.
Like, it is an incredible, like, character arc and development, especially the more you delve into her backstory. And everyone giving Max crap about being like the detective on the case, essentially, where she can just get information that she's not supposed to know. Yep. That's a great Gwen line too, by the way.
Yep.
Like, that whole thing is fantastic. I think in the context of the game, I like Safi. I think she, like I said, performed, written, everything well. I feel like she's run a little bit too similar to the Rachel Amber storyline, where it's like, this is a tragedy waiting to happen.
Yep.
And yeah, she uses Max and everything, but I really don't like her by the end of the game as a
No.
person, as a character. It's just like we said, it's the Magneto Charles Xavier conversation where it's like, I'm gonna go do some exploring. I'm gonna find some people like us. We might call them a sisterhood of mutants, maybe we
That's
might
right.
call them.
And like when
And I
they
need to know you'll be here.
when they present you with that choice of like, are you going to take her hand or not and help her? And I'm like, that was the easiest decision I've ever made in these games. Of like, no,
I struggled with that one so much
Yeah.
because my thought was, if I say no, then
you push her away.
that is me. Yeah, you push her away. You're refuting everything you've just done by bringing her back from the void, essentially.
Right.
And you're telling her that she doesn't have any friends. She doesn't
Exactly.
have anybody to support her.
Mhm.
Whereas if you accept it, you're also at the same time saying, yeah, what you did was fine. Destroying lives and careers and getting people injured and everything else.
The mental
That's
health
fine.
of everybody in a college.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah.
So like
struggled with that.
Yeah.
That decision I paused, but it was for the very first conversation we had on this podcast just about what is Max actually going to say.
Yeah.
Select one of these. Because like I wanted to be the supportive, loving friend, but also like there's no world where I'm gonna join you to enact, some
That's
sort
right.
of
I'm gonna open
revenge
a
with
school
powers on
of
it.
my own.
Yeah.
For talented children.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh.
Something like
I mean,
real ring
that's
to
how
it.
that's how they get the next Life is Strange game in another school. They
That's
make Max the head of the
That's right.
school.
The Caulfield University for Gifted Children. Yep. Perfect. Yeah. And then like
Max I'm headmaster.
That's right. That's right.
Head Maxter.
Well, hey, there you go. And then
Hey.
like the post credits stinger of Safi being back at the school and Diamond having the nosebleeds and them kind of potentially going off, and then the stinger of like Max Caulfield will return, which is just come on, man. Like I don't love that.
I will still watch all the Marvel movies, but that portion of the Marvel credits has worn out its welcome.
And, and I agree with you, Musum. Like, I'm definitely going to be there for the next game. We'll probably cover it on this show again, if I was to guess. But I feel like the next game is going to be a huge hinge point for, I think, a lot of people that enjoy the series game over game, sort of no matter who makes it. Of like, are you going, if you don't nail the next one, I don't know, man. Like, it's gonna be a hard sell.
That's it is, man. God, that's sad. You're absolutely right. It's gonna be a pivot piece. And granted, we do this podcast, so we may force the game beyond that on ourselves anyway. But
But they backed themselves into a corner. They have no choice where to go next other than where they're going to go.
Yeah.
And, like, if they make the game that they're going to make, which is, like, a Max v. Safi storyline, I mean, technically it will probably be really great. But, like, you kind of already see how that's going to play out. I will respect them a lot if they kind of take a left turn from that. But you kind of just see the writing on the wall already, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but that's going to be.
Do we secretly get a Safi game next instead?
That would be all right. Yeah.
You know what else would be cool is if each chapter were a different character from a different Life is Strange game as the protagonist.
Sure. Yeah. Do like an anthology of like. I'll play as Alex from True Colors. Like, let's do that.
That's what these games were. They were
Exactly.
anthology games,
Yeah.
and they've taken that and kind of twisted it in on itself.
Yeah, they
Like,
put the
I am
lid
gonna
on it.
miss- I am gonna miss the anthology aspect, but at minimum, the next game is gonna be the end of the trilogy.
Can we just rename this show like Game Club plus Life is Strange for the future references?
That's right. Yeah. All right. Let's do kind of final thoughts here because we've been recording here for a lot. Musum, what are your final thoughts here for Double Exposure?
I'll keep it simple. I like it. It was disappointing. Um, I will probably play it again someday, and I'll still play the sequel.
Yeah. Moon, your final thoughts.
Um, I think this is a stronger game than it is if you have played Life is Strange 1. I don't think you need to play 1 to play this one. But I think, like I mentioned several times, I think this rests its laurels on the ground that Life is Strange 1 built
Yeah.
for it. So I think having played 1 makes this a stronger game. I've always had this theory about endings of anything. Games, books, movies, whatever. A completely average movie with an incredible ending becomes an above average movie. That becomes a good movie.
Yeah.
A middle of the road book with a terrible ending becomes a terrible book. I'm looking at you, Breaking Dawn specifically in this case. You know, a TV show that has an astonishing finale, it elevates everything. The quality of your ending dictates how people remember your product.
Right.
It might be 10 out of 10 as a whole, but then that ending can bring it down to like a 7 or a 6 because that's the last thing people interacted with your product on. And this game has got an 8 and a 9 out of 10 1, an 8 and a 9 out of 10 2. Same for 3. 4 is maybe dropping it, and then 5 is just. I despise the final chapter of this game. Like, with
It's
a
the storm
passion,
again. Hey, the
I
storm is back.
hate that entire. The concept of the storm being back, I think, is good, executed horrendously poorly.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm like, I'll still recommend it. I'll still say, yeah, go play it. Especially if you've played 1, give it a shot. Maybe don't expect too much from by the end because it might hit you differently. But if you go into this with lower expectations for the end, I think you'll be better off for it.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, we're all fanboys here for Life is Strange, so we'll all be playing the next one regardless. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what about you, Boston?
I think Musumi said it really well. Like, I really liked it and I didn't love it. And I think I tried to go in with fair expectations going in of like, I really love this series, kind of for better or for worse, even when the games are emotionally destructive, like Life is Strange 2. I still really like them. And I hope this is better than True Colors, and it wasn't. And that's fine, because True Colors is like, hey, this is the best one, or my favorite one, or whatever. Like, True Colors is incredible. And I think it's, like we've been talking about, it's really hard to make a sequel to the first Life is Strange game, especially because the first game is like crystallized in amber of video games at the moment. It was really kind of a turning point for smaller studios and dialogue driven games and the modernization of point and click adventure games. Like, I don't think people realize that how big of a kind of turning point the original Life is Strange game it was. And I didn't expect Double Exposure to really reinvent the genre again, but I was hoping it was better than it turned out to be. Because, like we've been saying, 3.5 chapters, really great. Was really feeling it. Those last chapter and a half just really struggled under the weight of, I don't know, Life is Strange 1, its own storytelling, the storm. Just so much of it just kind of was the weight on its back that it really struggled with. So again, I liked it. Will it end up on my top 10 list this year? I'm not sure yet. I haven't made it, but it's definitely probably in the running. But it's not the kind of next high water mark that I was hoping it would be. Not expecting to be, but hoping for it to be. So, all right, that's our episode. Remember that we're playing Gris for our next game. That's out on everything. You might already own it. Don't forget that next month is our Game Club of the Year episode. We're gonna pit all these games against each other, and we'll figure out who ends up on top this past year of all the games we played. Thank you so much everyone for listening and watching. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.